It's kind of a tremolo, kind of an octave, kind of a sequencer. It's kind of amazing. It's the Hologram Electronics Dream Sequence.
I've been learning do's and don'ts during times I'm losing hope. Now I'm far away from home, from hard work in studios. Let us raise a glass and toast, celebrating after shows. Ain't monopolies in music, this is the day we pass and go. Try to reenact the flow, not believing in my goals. I've never stopped the growth or displayed that plastic rose. So I tell them, look at me, I'ma be the captain now. Graduated to the majors, I don't need a cap and gown. Now my city's showing love every time I'm back in town. Here to lift you up, I was never backing down. Crossing off the checklist by the time I'm passing out. Working harder till I'm adding commas to my bank account. I'd suffer with depression, I'm just glad I made it out. Inspired those with struggle, feeling weak like they are bound. Now the light's on me and I am here to go and face the crowd. While I scream, I told you mama I was gonna make you proud.
Alright, so first off, huge thanks to Upgrade for jumping in there. He wrote and performed that just for us. I think it's important to challenge what we expect from music, and I'm glad we could work together on that. Over to the Dream Sequence pedal and how I used it in that clip. Right out of the gate for that main sequence in there, you heard the pulsating organ type sound, and that was the Dream Sequence with a bit of reverb and dimension effect added in. Then for the middle part, I used a choppy tremolo kind of thing with some distortion in the mix. And then I kept that going for the lead part where you can hear the octave shifting happening a little bit more. I also used some synthesizer, both an actual synthesizer and my SY200 to fill out that middle section because, hey, why not? This is one of the most interesting effects I've played around with, and it does take some explaining. Start off by thinking of it as a sequencer. Essentially, it's got this timeline with a set number of steps, and it goes through those steps in sequence. And on each step, we tell it what to do. This neat looking display over here tells us the tempo, where the downbeat is, that's when the top one shows up in blue, as well as when we're hearing the regular note and or octave down and or octave up. So watch this and listen for the different sounds as those lights come on. Let's work with the sequence. We can change that by pulling up any of the factory presets from these first two banks, and then we can save or recall our own sequences over in the saved bank. The factory patterns tend to be more complex, and you can't edit some of the parameters like shape and subdivision. So let's pull up a user pattern and start hacking away at that. Shape is how those tremolo cuts should come in. It's the ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. On the left side of that knob, it's more choppy and percussive. And then on the right side, it's more soft and wavy. Those are technical terms. So this gives us some very different ways of approaching this effect. Same with the dry effect knob. This is how much of the original signal is in the mix. The subdivisions knob lets us spell out how many notes we want based on our tempo and how we want them laid out. And we can start with half notes and go all the way up to 30-second notes, including quarter and eighth note triplets. We can also use these so-called auxiliary modes to just use the basic features of the pedal along with octave up and down, as well as random. And those are handy to have if you want to make some custom tremolo sequences. Just another set of options to have. Then top right corner, we get drive and tone. Tone all the way to the right lets the signal pass through unaffected, and as you start rolling it back, it starts to attenuate those higher frequencies. And the drive is interesting. It's a digitally controlled analog distortion. It's not my favorite distortion in the world, but it's nice to have it included in here just to soften up the signal and add a little bit of clipping. The benefit of that being digitally controlled is that once we get into recording our own sequences, we can program a change within that sequence. It's called knob recording, and we can do it with drive, tone, and shape just by holding down the bypass button in the middle while we make those adjustments. And with that recorded, now we can go back and we'll hear the drive coming in and going out as the pattern plays. Our 3 foot switches are tap tempo, that does what you think it does. The middle button is typically the on-off bypass button, and on the right is hold. That lets us do this. That hold button has 3 modes: toggle, latch, and momentary. Toggle means you hit the button, it starts holding, hit it again, and it stops. It goes back to normal. Latch mode means every time you hit the button, it's going to grab and hold a new sample. And if you want it to go back to normal, double tap it. Then in momentary mode, it'll hold for as long as you hold it down. Release it, and it releases the sample. Default mode is toggle, but I've set mine to latch for all the demos here. Also, when you're in hold mode, the dry mix is how loud the signal that you're playing on top of the held signal is going to be. Now, so far, we've been using the factory and user patterns. Let's make a pattern of our own. So we'll start by navigating to the pattern recorder, which is in saved preset bank, pattern number 12, and wait for it. All right, so to help us lock in with our pattern and find the groove, it'll play 16th notes to help us get that tempo in mind. Then what we're gonna do is use these foot switches to add in the octave down, regular note, and octave up on the beats where we want them. And I really have nothing in mind here, I'm just kind of mashing buttons. If we mess up and we want to start over, we just hold down the corresponding button for that octave for 2 seconds and it'll clear. And once we've got something we like, we just hold down these 2 outside foot switches, select where we want to save it, and then hold them down again. And because this is our own save pattern, we can also go in and adjust the shape and the subdivisions and all that as well. Now, this pedal has MIDI in and out. I don't plan on getting too in depth with that because I think most people will just use this standalone on their pedal board. But as I was recording that opening demo, I really wanted it locked in with the beat. Otherwise, keeping it synced up from take to take was going to be a nightmare. And believe it or not, I require a lot of takes. Thankfully, getting that set up was actually really simple, so I'll show you that. You plug a MIDI cable into the audio interface's MIDI out, and then into the Dream Sequence's MIDI in. Now, I use Logic Pro, and in here, all I had to do was make sure that in my project settings under synchronization, my interface was selected. It really was that simple. So now anytime the project timeline advances, it syncs up with the pedal. Simple as that. There is a whole lot of creating and synchronizing and modifying that you can do through MIDI with a setup like this, but that's its own thing. And I've got something important that I really want to address because one of the things that really helped me start enjoying this pedal was learning to, I won't say ignore, but learning to take the downbeat indicator light as just a suggestion. And this is something I learned with the Boss Slicer as well. Sometimes you'll just be scrolling through the presets trying to find a pattern that matches an idea or inspire a chord progression, and you're playing along with it, building something that you think sounds good, and then you look down and realize, oh wow, I had the downbeat all wrong in my head. I was playing starting on 2 or 3 and so I'm playing something like this. But if I follow the lights, it's supposed to be something like this. Look, if you hear something you like, then use it. The pedal police are not going to come in and kick down your door and take all your gear for coming in on the 3 and. That's something that's kind of fun here. There's all these built-in patterns plus the ones you're going to generate, but there's actually way more once you kind of detach and start listening for your own patterns in there. Maybe you remember a few years back Ludagate, where people were arguing about where the downbeat is in the Ludacris track Rollout. 12 Tone did a fantastic video about that. I'll provide a link to that somewhere. I'm on team halftime on beat, personally. But yeah, go with what you hear. Don't let that blue light be the boss of you. I'm going to go solo for this next little number, just completely ignoring any and all sense of time and downbeat. And I'll be using the hold function in latch mode along with all these other pedals to build up something that I can noodle around over. Enjoy. All right, one more time, let's hear it for Upgrade. He's a great guy, he's a great sport, and I loved working with him on that first track in there. I'd love to be doing more collaborations on here, to be honest. So if you got some ideas, you know how to get a hold of me. Anyway, the Dream Sequence is a powerful pedal that can be used to do everything from hard stop rhythmic tremolo to smooth organ-esque soundscapes. And I'll admit it, my first impressions were, what am I getting myself into? Do I really need something like this? Then I started kind of loosening up with what I was doing on the guitar and finding those grooves within the patterns. And then after a few days, I got around to building this little pedal board specifically for having fun with the Dream Sequence. That's my experience. Real curious to hear your thoughts and experiences as well. This has been a big episode, but it's a big pedal. It does a lot of things. And one more time, show Upgrade some love. Follow my channel too, if you want to. But most importantly, take care of yourselves. Pick up litter even when it doesn't belong to you. Come back soon, and I'll catch you on the next one.